Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. Today we continue the melody series, and today I'm going to show you how to make your flute melody sound better. So here's before. Which sounds pretty cool. But I want you to look at the harmonics of the sound. So these little horizontal lines are harmonics. So every time you see this little yellow or red line go across, it's a harmonic. So I'm going to mute my mic so it doesn't pick up background noise, and I want you to look at the harmonics, and then when I turn on the effects, look at how it changes. So it might be subtle, but what it did is it picked up more of that in-between space. All the little like nuances of the texture are now pulled up to the forefront. So here are the notes if you're trying to copy the notes for whatever reason. Okay, it's literally 2 bars, actually 1 bar, because we're in double time. So it's just nice short little notes, D, A, D, E. So you have the first, and then you're going up a whole step, and then you have F, which would be the third. So you're going first, second, third, really. And then back, second, third. It's super simple. Or third, second, I mean. Very simple. Okay, so what the key is using a compressor. Now, before we get to the compressor, however, we're going to use a preamp or some type of harmonic generating thing. So there's other UA plugins that add harmonics. So let me turn this on. So this is just the Neve 1073. So what I did was I pushed it pretty heavy going in, and I lowered the output. So if I turned up the output to its original volume, it would be loud. But the reason I'm pushing it is because preamps have a certain sound when you drive them. And I use the EQ over here just to shape it. So this is another feature of this specific preamp. If I crank the highs, we get more of the energy popping up in our high frequencies. So now we have an airy flute. And I boosted the lows pretty heavy, around, what is that, 220? So any signal that was around there got boosted as well. So boosting the highs and lows pretty heavy. And I just turned the output down just so I could hear it without it being glaringly loud. So from here, we're just, again, there's more harmonic generating things in here. There's distortion, there's amps in here. There's, let's use like you could use like a twin tube, for example. See, it has a harmonics. But again, whenever you start cranking this stuff, turn down your output. So I'm going to turn that down before I start cranking these knobs. See how it gets buzzy? But we don't want it to be super buzzy because that could take away from the sound. We just want to fill in those gaps. So we're just going to pull that volume down so we can keep adding effects. So the next effect is a reverb. And this is just to give the sound space. So this reverb's cool because it has a dry wet mix right here. And I just set it to 3%. That's going through this reverb. This is called RealVerb from Universal Audio. Now to make all this mesh, I added a compressor. Now this compressor is used on a lot of snare drums and rock music, but I used it for this flute because it made it sound nice and linear and even. This is the API 2500. And now we have that smooth texture. So we added the griminess, the edginess, the zzz, the edgy buzziness, and then we smoothed it off with this compressor. So you can copy the settings if you want, but basically you just pull the threshold knob up until you catch the signal. And there's different modes here, like the thrust feature sends a little more high end to the compressor. Then you can switch the knee type. But it, you know, you would really have to drive stuff to really hear those small differences. And then you just turn up your gain. And you could even blend it in. So if you want to super compress it, let's super compress. So we can hear it's clearly like reacting pretty heavily. Then what we can do is use the mix level. To blend this in. just to mess with different tones and different sounds. Now, we didn't spend a lot of time on that one, but again, here's before, just as a reminder. And we could do cooler stuff. There's a gazillion things from here. I don't want to get too deep down the rabbit hole. Where's the one at? I just saw it 2 seconds ago. Here it is, the Vitalizer, the SPL Vitalizer. So this one, we're going to use the stereo expander. And that widens that reverb a little bit. I think that's density. FL kind of intensity. FL blocks the screen. This looks like some type of EQ. So now we have a sound. We hear the airy part. And now it's a unique tone. I'm going to pull back on some of the saturation though. Okay. And now you have, again, here's before. Here's after. Now I'm going to add one more tool, which is Cooper Time Cube. I just like this for its creative effect from UAD. And then you could really just go through presets. The Haas effect. This is a pretty cool sound. And if it's too loud, you can always pull back the echo level, echo volume. Or pull back the EQs. This one says treble, this one says bass. So now we have a really unique sound. And again, you could run it through another compressor. Let's just pick a different compressor in this case. Let's do a SSL G compressor. Now we can squash all this stuff together. And you could blend this as well. So now it's one thing. It sounds like one instrument. So now when you play, you can come up with a whole bunch of ideas because now you're hearing it through all these effects. So your melodies become different when you hear stuff. Now that would sound way different if I just played it by itself. Doesn't give me a It doesn't give me a vibe. Because now I know how long to wait with the reverb. And now we have an instant melody. So sometimes it's about having the effects ready. So you can hear all the stuff. Because again, I don't know if I would have played that naturally. I probably would have played it like this. But now if those same effects were on, it just sounds different. Too much. So when you hear the effects, you leave that space. Interesting little stuff. If you want to learn more about Melody, go to busyworksbeats.com/melody. I'll try to link all this stuff below if I remember, or you could just check out Universal Audio's website. I'll just leave probably the plugin list website. So thanks for watching. It's Game from busyworksbeats.com. Peace.